Chairs No Waiting, episode number 545, listener feedback number 39. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you by the fine folks over at weaversdepartmentstore.com. Drop by over at Weavers and check it out. They have the 2020 Andy Griffith Show wall calendar. You don't want to miss it. You need it. Go ahead and get it or order it for Christmas for people you love. You might want to head over as well and check out some of the Sunday morning breakfast blend, the coffee we have over there, and just in, ladies and gentlemen, Mayberry First, a book by Randy Turner. Head over to weaversdepartmentstore.com and check it out. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners just like you. And the executive producer of episode number 545 are the folks who came to the Mayberry meetup. They gathered a whole bunch of money to help keep this podcast going. So thank you so much to all of you. And thank you for being here with me. Now, who am I? I'm Alan Newsome, your host for Two Chairs No Waiting. I've been running websites for the Andy Griffith Show since about 1990. Wow, what year was it? 92? Yeah, 93. I guess right in that time frame is when I first created the site that is now imayberry.com. And I'm also a Floyd Lawson tribute artist. And I got to do that this past weekend over in Gunnersville, Alabama. Great time over at the car show they had there. Me and Barney Woods. Barney was there with me. Had a great time. And that's who I am just a little bit. So tonight, whenever you're listening to this, we're going to be talking with folks just like you who have written in or called in to the podcast. It's a listener feedback episode number 39. Wow. 39. Now we've had other listener feedback. I haven't done, it hasn't been just this feedback. I do it, but every once in a while I have a whole bunch of feedback that I hadn't gotten to. So it's time to kick it into overdrive and actually let you guys talk back here online. So I'm going to read a few, and then we got some voicemail as well. So let's go ahead and get this thing going. Don't leave after this is over either. We got Randy Turner. Man, we got all kinds of stuff for you tonight. So let me hurry through these because I don't want you to have to be here forever. But we got some feedback from Joe from over in Grand Island, New York. That's right, New York City. New York. He's not New York City, but Grand Island, New York. He was talking about the Legacy of Mayberry from episodes number 544 and 543. That's what he was talking about. And here's what he had to say. He said, last week's podcast, which would have been 544, you asked for other examples of Mayberry's continuing impact on popular culture. So here goes. Over the weekend, I watched a 2001 movie called 61, a story about Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle's pursuit of Babe Ruth's record of hitting 60 home runs in one season. Maris was portrayed as a straight-laced person, while Mantle was known for being a little bit of a carousing type guy. In order to keep Mantle focused on baseball, Roger invited Mickey to move into an apartment that Roger shared with another teammate, and his name was Bob. Okay, so and then there was no partying allowed in this house. There's a scene about 34 minutes into the movie. So this is where it gets into it. About 34 minutes into the movie, after dinner, the three Yankees, the baseball players, are sitting on the couch with Bob and Maris happily watching the beginning of the Andy Griffith Show and whistling the theme song while Mickey Mantle looked at them in disbelief. It was pretty funny. Towards the end of the movie, after watching the news together, Bob says something like, "Oh, it's time for the Andy Griffith Show." Whether those guys really watched the Andy Griffith Show, I don't know. But the fact that the screenwriters thought to put these scenes in the movie showed that the Andy Griffith Show was and is a great example of wholesome television that has stood the test of time. By the way, the movie is worth watching too, even if you're not a Yankee fan. That's Joe from Grand Island, New York. So Joe, thank you for taking time to write in. And we had another Joe that wrote in. Now this one is a little more just talking about how Mayberry has affected the culture around. And he writes in, this is Joe Gritton. You guys may have heard of Joe. Well, Joe wrote in to say that hopefully you're able to open the links, which I was. So if you're watching the video version of the show, you'll be able to see these. he posted pictures from a newspaper article here in Indiana, the home of Bernard P. Fife, attorney at law, that we talked about on the podcast a week or so ago. The Mayberry Cafe is an obvious but important vehicle in today's society where the role of Mayberry is not only remembered but cherished. The pictures on the wall of the Mayberry Cafe and the episodes playing and the memorabilia and the squad car out in front, and yes, even the menu reflects what we best love about Mayberry and the Andy Griffith Show. What better way to carry on a legacy to introduce younger generations by perpetuating the fandom for years to come than to create a familiar environment of good, by the way, very good, home-cooked meals where the family is surrounded by our favorite town and friends from that town. And that is from Indiana. It's from Joe Gritton, and he's talking about the Mayberry Cafe in Danville, Indiana. So the untrained voice, Indiana Joe. So he wrote about the Mayberry Cafe. You know, I didn't even think about that. That's a definite another way that the Andy Griffith Show has impacted society as a general statement there, because definitely the Mayberry Cafe is a amazing little piece of that. If you have never been there, I definitely want to encourage you to head over to the Mayberry Cafe if you ever have a chance, because wow, it is amazing. And that was from Joe. So thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. Our next email or feedback that we got is from Terry from Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Okay. And he's talking about Barney's cars. He said, I found something interesting in season 1, episode 6, The Runaway Kid. Okay. In regard to Barney's car. He drives up to Andy's house and jumps out of what looks like maybe to be an old Plymouth. Well, I guess it really wasn't that old then. But the patrol car is parked in front of the house. And when Barney drove up in this other vehicle, he drove up and there was dust coming up. The vehicle that Barney drove wasn't marked as a patrol car. Okay. It wasn't marked as a patrol car, even though it did have what appeared to be a spotlight on the driver's side, which I think was common in older vehicles to have spotlights. So maybe older vehicles had spotlights on the car. Now I noticed as I was looking at the pictures that he sent me, by the way, it did have a spotlight on the car, but I couldn't see a rearview mirror on the door of the car. So I was kind of confused about that. Anyway, it leads one to think that it was Barney's personal vehicle, except this was season 1, episode 6, right? And so in season 3, episode 27, which was titled Barney's First Car, he didn't have a car. So that's just something to think about or to study on, as we might say down in the South. Grab a bucket and take a think about it under there. Because remember, as Gomer says, you can do some good thinking with a bucket on your head, just like Sergeant Carter. So, and he also noticed, by the way, Terry did, that it was a dirt road out in front of Andy's house. So I went and looked at that as well, because thanks, Terry, for writing in, because you're right. When Barney pulls up, there is dust flying because he's driven up in this car. And he was 100% right that the car has a spotlight on there. But what I also noticed, because you can see the Mayberry Sheriff's car. Now, maybe you wouldn't even notice this about the patrol car, but it has the whip antenna on the back of the car. So when you're watching this, you got to watch real quick. But when you look at the whip antenna, normally it is connected to the back bumper, and it comes over and loops over and connects to a little clip that's on the back of the door frame at the back. Well, for some reason, the antenna is popped up. It's not connected, so it's sticking straight up in the air, and you can see it in front of the car if you look really close. If you watch the video for this podcast, I'm showing the picture of it and using my mouse to show where it is. But you go and watch. That's another little thing to catch. And I zoomed in, and it sure does look like it is some kind of a spotlight on the side of that car. So Terry, great catch, great job. Thanks for writing in with that information. All right. So we got some voicemail I wanted to play for you as well. So let me pull this up. The first one is coming in from Phil, and he's talking about the Mayberry meetup. That was from episode number 541, where he talked about the Mayberry meetup 2019. So Phil, take it away.
Hey, Alan, it's Phil Bernard calling. Just wanted to check in and tell you how much me and Mary enjoyed the meetup this weekend. We were only able to come for the day Saturday, but it was a long, fun-filled day. We left home about 8 o'clock Saturday morning and got home just a little after midnight that night. So we made the most out of it and had a great time. Just wanted to tell everyone again that if you've never attended one of these Mayberry Day festivals and get-togethers, you're really missing out because it is a great time to be had. But thank you so much for all the work that you and everyone did to make it happen and put it together. I know it's supposed to be a casual get-together weekend, and it is for us attendees, but for you guys that put it together, you do a great job. I know it's a lot of work, but just want to let you know your efforts are well appreciated. Thank you so much, and we'll see you at Mayberry Days. Take care.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. That's Leonard Blush and his wife, Miss Ellie. There they are. So thank you. And it is a good bit of work. And it's more work, honestly, I feel like, for Jan than it was for me. But we're working on that too. We'll take care of it. But it is definitely a labor of love, and I'm so thankful you got to come. If you don't know what we're talking about, go and check out episode number 541 of Two Chairs, No Waiting. You can, if you can't find it, you just go to the Two Chairs, No Waiting site. If you're on your computer, there's a search box right there at the top right-hand side of the screen, kind of. You can just type in the numbers 541 and you'll go straight to it. It's called Mayberry Meetup Report, and you'll get to hear about what happened at the Mayberry Meetup. And so you'll be able to hear what's going on. It was a lot of fun. It's always fun to get together with you guys, and Mayberry friends and family and everything. It is a lot of fun. All right. So we have another voice feedback that we got from John. So John, take it away.
Hello, Alan. It's John Sims from Willard, Missouri. Barber here, and love your show and the podcast and everything. Listen to all of them. Have for quite some time, off and on. I was in Mount Airy a few years back, about a year before Russell Hyatt passed away. The real Floyd Barber, and it was great meeting him. Got a picture with him and everything, and just making sure everything's up and going, and everybody's okay, and all that good stuff. Thank you very much. Thanks for the show. Have a great day.
Well, thank you, John, a fellow barber. I just play a barber on TV. Yeah, well, not even TV, just in person. But John, thanks for taking time to call in. It's always fun to hear from people just like you. Everybody gets to hear me talking every week, I always say, but I don't get to hear from you very often. So I really do appreciate you taking the time anytime you can to either call in or write in. It's just always fun to do. I'm so glad you got to see Russell, who ran Floyd's City Barbershop there in Mount Airy. I'm so glad you got to see him. And now we have a special voicemail that I know you're going to enjoy. I'll just let him say who he is. So take it away.
Hi, Ellen. It's Peter Ackerman here, Miss Ellie, Eleanor Donahue's boy. And I just wanted to let you know how much I enjoyed the latest episode this week of Two Chairs, No Waiting. Boy, it's a trip down memory lane. Not only did you mention my mother, thank you very much, but you mentioned an actor named Ken Lynch. And what is interesting is the small town aspect that we had in the San Fernando Valley, where I lived and grew up with my mom and my dad, who was a TV producer. We lived less than a mile from Ken Lynch's flower shop, the flower shop he opened near the end of his life. And I used to buy flowers there when I was doing plays in high school. I used to buy flowers there for the cast on the last night. And I got to know Ken a little bit. And living right around the corner from that flower shop and down the street was a man named Andy Griffith lived there. So, boy, you brought back a lot of memories. And just thank you for doing that. Keep doing the podcast. I'll keep listening. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Wow, Peter, thank you so much for calling in, and I'm so glad I was able to help get you some memories. Now, he said the one we did last week, and the reason he said that is because he called in back in July, and I'm only getting this done. It was episode number 539 called Mayberry Actors. So if you haven't check that out, go and check that out, that episode. And in it, Randy Turner's special report was about Ken Lynch. So that's where we're getting both of those things, because we definitely did talk about Miss Ellie and being on Father Knows Best, Eleanor Donahue. So go and check that one out. Peter, it's always fun to hear from folks that were connected to the show, or parents, the kids of folks who were connected to this show. It's always fun that you listen. Thank you very much. And your mom was an amazing part of the Andy Griffith Show and brings smiles to everybody every time we think about Miss Ellie. So thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So we have another little bit. This was a little longer feedback, so I kind of held back on this one. This one's from Rich Stewart. Now, Rich had some really good stuff, so I wanted to bring some of this to your attention as we go as well. Okay. So, Rich, let me start off with this. He calls it Those Little Things. From Rich wrote. He said, "Hey, Alan, I just started listening to the podcast and have been a follower of imayberry.com. I'm also John Masters on the Front Porch Forum. That's a website that's connected from imayberry.com. If you don't know what that is, the Front Porch." He says, "I've noticed little things about the Andy Griffith Show, and I thought you could use them on the podcast or as trivia or something. We all know about the big mistakes or changes throughout the Andy Griffith Show, such as Andy's address changing and Barney's he's got a wet overcoat and a dry overcoat, wet overcoat, all in one scene in Black Day for Mayberry, where it rained on him and then it hadn't rained, all that. But I wonder if anyone might have noticed these smaller things. For example," so he's got a few things here. So these are things we may go into more depth on here on the podcast later. "Did you notice that Opie doesn't seem to know Aunt Bee's age in the bed jacket? Did you know that?" Yeah, in the episode The Bed Jacket, which is in season 3, Opie doesn't seem to know how old Aunt Bee is, but he does know it in the episode Those Gossiping Men. It is the 15th episode of season 1. So in season 3, a couple years later, he doesn't know how old Aunt Bee is, but he did know in season 1. When he says to Aunt Bee, referring to Emma Watson, "She's in her 40s and let's hear it from Opie."
"I'm one person that doesn't try to hide her age. I'm in my 40s and I admit it."
"Golly, Aunt Bee, she's way younger than you are. She's in her 40s and you're already..."
"Opie, why don't you go over there and get yourself a candy bar?"
So she's in her 40s and you're, Opie, go over there and get yourself a candy bar. So that's right. So that is, it's a little unusual, but, anyway, we know it's a show, but we think it's got to be real. So Opie just forgot, right? He forgot how old she was because she lied to him about how old she was. All right, so let's go on the next one he found. He said in the Bargain Day, in the episode Bargain Day, when Aunt Bee and Opie are talking about taking the meat to Foley's Market, they kept it in the freezer. Remember that? And they're going the wrong direction, he's saying. And I think I can clarify this for him. He says they have the wagon pointing towards the corner that would wrap around to the church. And they're walking down the building. Why weren't they coming towards Andy or angling the right direction to go towards Foley? So they come around the corner and he hadn't crossed the street yet, is basically what he's saying. So in other words, if you're standing with your back to the courthouse doors and facing the street, Aunt Bee and Opie are across the street pointing to the left. And then Foley's Market is straight to the right. So I think, so what he's talking about is as they walk into town and they do the same thing, they're coming from around where the church is, right? So Andy, if you can visualize it, the church, that there's a road that runs in front of Andy's that comes out at where the church, also All Souls Church is. And then there's a weird shaped road there because it comes kind of the end and then cuts a little bit to the right and then turns back to the left. And I can show you that in the picture if you're looking at it, that if you come here, there's an episode of The Loaded Goat where Barney and Andy are leading the goat out of town. Nobody's on the street, but they're walking away from the courthouse and about to turn up the road that goes right in front of Andy's house. Well, there's a strange corner there. Now that's where Andy or Aunt B and Opie were coming around the corner. And what he's asking is, why didn't they cut across the road? Well, you can't cut straight across the road. So I can see where that would happen. They were cutting around the corner and then going to go over to the corner and then go down the road where the courthouse is. So if you guys don't know, if you've never seen the 40 Acres studio lot, that's where they actually filmed the Andy Griffith Show. And it is not laid out like a real town. So it's not square at all. Like the building where Walker's Drugs is kind of what you would almost consider like in the middle of the street. It's kind of there, and it's a weird shaped building, but it kind of blocks angles so that if you're filming television shows or movies, you can't see everywhere. You see the building and it kind of blocks other things. That's because these are studio sets, right? Anyway, I know we all want to think about Andy Griffith Show being a real place, and I do consider it a real place, but it's made as a studio lot. So it's a weird shaped road. The road is not straight and like it normally would be. So anyway, that's why Aunt B, when they came into town, they walked straight down and then went around the corner, but they had to walk over to probably where there may have been a crossing area, then go across the road to the courthouse and up towards the market. Anyway, so that's my thinking on that. So, so you can kind of see, where they'd had to go. Cause if you watch the video, you'll be able to see that. So, and let's move on to his next stuff. Cause that was good stuff. I think that one may not have been quite the same. Okay, so then he goes on and says, Andy doesn't seem to have any trouble or any problem with Asa being the guard for the bank in the episode The Bank Job. But in The Shoplifters, he tells Ben Weaver, well, he's pretty old. Well, he wasn't too old to try to guard the bank, but, guarding Weavers, he was too old. In Cousin Virgil is always uptight and makes mistakes when people are watching him. But why then did he oversand and overpolish the gel keys when he was the only one in the back room? He wasn't watched, and then he still goofed up, right? All right. So notice how Barney didn't have any problem making an illegal U-turn when he was escorting Melissa. Remember Melissa, the pretty girl, to the post office in the episode Barney on the Rebound, but he'd had a major problem with it in Citizen's Arrest. Well, Barney didn't have any problem when he did a U-turn. It was only when Gomer did a U-turn, because Barney's driving an official emergency vehicle. So that may be why. Plus, it was a pretty girl, and he was trying to help her. Also notice that Barney read Jace the riot act about throwing down some bubble gum in the episode Barney and the Governor, a bubble gum wrapper, a gum wrapper. But he had no problem throwing down Roger's torn up ticket at the end of Barney's replacement. I never noticed that. Yeah. So he threw down a piece of he threw it down. That's a good one. How does Barney know how to play the harmonica so well in Barney on the Rebound and Those Gossiping Men? But it seems he was just learning to play it in The Loaded Goat. Well, that's a good question. Maybe he was just learning that song in Loaded Goat. Nita, wasn't that what he's playing? All right, so one more I think he's got here. So Ollie had to sleep with Andy, and Nora slept with Aunt B in the episode The Family Visit. Remember that? Where they came to town. But when Malcolm Tucker in Man in a Hurry and Mr. Wheeler in Aunt B's Brief Encounter, they got their own rooms. Well, that's not quite right, because Malcolm Tucker, Opie got to sleep with adventure sleeping on an ironing board between two chairs. So he kicked Opie out of his bed. Remember that? And then now Mr. Wheeler, that is a good question. Because in the episode with Mr. Wheeler, he either had his own room or again, they kicked Opie out of his room and he slept with Andy or something. But what Richard went on to say is, why didn't Ollie and Nora, as a husband and wife, when they get their own room together? Well, my guess is they didn't have a guest room, because remember the two boys were sleeping with Opie, Andy slept with Uncle Ollie, and Nora slept with Aunt B. Now Nora and B were sisters, right? I think. So they stayed together. Otherwise, Andy and Aunt Bee would have had to have slept together in the bed, or somebody would have got kicked out of the bed completely. So that's probably why. But anyway, those are great questions, and I like thinking about them. So if you have any suggestions about why some of these may have been true, write in and we'll talk, and I'll share it with Richard, and we'll all know the answer there. So thank you, Richard, for taking time to do that with us and to write in. So, man, I want to thank everybody that took time to call or write in. That is some great, great information. And now we're going to go hear from Randy Turner with even more great information from this week in Mayberry history.
Welcome to This Week in Mayberry History, a report by Special Correspondent Randy Turner of the Gomer and Cooper Pyle Comic Book Literary Guild of the Mayberry Historical Society.
Unlike some who appeared in the Andy Griffith Show, the wonderful character actor Hoke Howell had a southern drawl that came naturally. Hoke was born on August the 27th, 1929 in Georgia, but spent his formative years in South Carolina. He attended Anderson College in his hometown, where he was a member of the Collegiate Drama Group. Hoke served in the Navy and acted in local theater productions while stationed in Florida. In 1954, he moved to New York City to study at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, the oldest school of acting in the English-speaking world. Hoke earned his tuition doing various jobs, such as working as a hotel clerk, and then finally driving a cab in the city while cartooning on the side. Already married and a father, at one point he considered leaving his studies, but the Academy president arranged a deferral of tuition payments, convincing him to stay. After graduating from the Academy in 1956, Hoke first did a stint playing lead roles with a regional theater in Maine. He then returned to New York City and acted in numerous off-Broadway productions. Hoke made his television debut during the golden age of television in an episode of the anthology series broadcast live from New York City, Goodyear Television Playhouse. The academy he attended provided a casting and placement service. In 1958, they sent him to audition for a small part in the upcoming Broadway play Make a Million, and hopefully to also serve as the understudy for a larger comedic role of Henry Whipple, a Georgia farm boy. The role had already been cast, though a contract had not been signed. When Hoke read lines in hope of being the understudy, the playwrights loved him and insisted he should get the part over the more experienced actor the producers had planned to use. The play opened on Broadway on October the 23rd, 1958, and ran for more than 300 performances. Hoke began working in film with bit parts in two classic movies filmed in New York City, The Hustler and Splendor in the Grass, both released in 1961. The experience convinced him to move to the West Coast, where more films and television shows were made. Hoke quickly appeared in several series, including two small parts in Dennis the Menace, before being cast in 1963 as Dud Wash in The Andy Griffith Show. Dud was seen near the end of the episode that introduced Briscoe, Charlene, and the boys. The Darlings Are Coming. Hoke was given more time to flesh Dud out into a rounded character in the follow-up episode Mountain Wedding. Much to the chagrin of Mayberry fans, when the character was seen for the third and final time in the next season, in Divorce Mountain Style, CBS had insisted the role be played by Bob Denver, who they wanted to give extra exposure to since he was going to star in a new series that fall, Gilligan's Island. Hoke remained a regular presence in episodic television for the next 5 years, appearing in series such as McHale's Navy, Lost in Space, Green Acres, and Gunsmoke. He was a frequent recurring character in the TV comedy western Here Come the Brides, appearing in 33 episodes between 1968 and 1970. Hoke and Rance Howard, Ron and Clint Howard's father, worked as writing partners during this general period, and sold a script to the police drama series The Rookies. After also appearing as an actor in an episode, Hoke eventually contributed to 2 more episode scripts and also appeared in another episode of The Rookies. In 1975, Hoke and Stephen Lodge, the set costumer from Here Come the Brides, wrote a short film called One Block Away. Lodge directed the short film, which was shot entirely at his home. Hoke continued to act in television and film. He had memorable roles such as the preacher in Ron Howard's directorial debut, Grand Theft Auto, which was very much a family affair, with Ron utilizing many family and friends in the cast. Hoke played another recurring character in the short-lived mid-70s series, The Oregon Trail, and continued to appear in series as varied as Kung Fu, to The Dukes of Hazzard, to Happy Days. He co-wrote and appeared in 2 B-movie thrillers in 1989 and 1990. For the remainder of his career, Hoke appeared more often in films, from lower-budget fun movies such as Bikini Drive-In, to popular films such as Another 48 Hours, to big-budget epics such as Far and Away. Fans of The Andy Griffith Show are ever thankful Hoke spent some time in Mayberry over his 40-plus year career. Hoke passed away in 1997. Well, that's it for this week. As always, thanks for listening. And remember to take Andy's advice and go out there and act like somebody.
Oh, thank you, Randy. Thank you for telling us about Hoke. Hoke is a great guy. Wow, Randy Turner is too. So if you want to make sure you don't miss out on any of the great stuff he's doing online, send him an email at turnersgrade@gmail.com. turnersgrade@gmail.com. Thank you, Randy. And by the way, Randy Turner's book, Mayberry Firsts, I have one right here in my hand. And you can get it over at Weaver's. So head over to Weaver's and pick up a copy. But in the book, Randy actually talks about on on page 180, it says, when were bedrooms in the Taylor home first seen? And then on page 182, it says, when was a spare bedroom in the Taylor house first seen? Oh, so Randy has the answer to our question. So just get you a copy of the book and you'll be able to know it too. I'm not going to tell you. But we did forget about Gomer. Gomer stayed overnight as well. He had a room when he stayed, remember? So that was another one. It's your shocks. The shocks. So great book. Thank you, Randy. Great book. So head over to Weaver's and pick up one. And if you need more information, you can send an email to Randy at turnersgrade at gmail.com. Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. Now, we were talking about Hoke Howell. Randy was. I've been talking about this off and on, but the Mayberry Man movie that is not being made yet, but they're trying to get it going and everything. That's by Stark Howell. He wrote it. And Court, his brother, is also involved in helping produce and everything. So if you're following along with them online on the websites that they have, which is at mayberryman.com, and at Facebook, it's Mayberry Man Movie. And there's also a Mayberry and Beyond Facebook group as well. Those are all coming from the Howard boys. So that's them. So, and not only them. So let's go in here one little bit more and then we'll get out of here. And this is still about the Mayberry Men movie, but this is from our friend Greg Shell. That's Ronnie Shell, Duke Slater from Gomer Pyle. Plus he was on the Andy Griffith Show a couple of times. His son. So let's go and hear from him.
Hi, I'm Greg Shell, son of Ronnie Shell, the actor who played Duke Slater on The Gomer Pyle Show. He was also on 2 episodes of The Andy Griffith Show. My father and I have attended a lot of the Mayberry Days festivals, and we've become a big part of the Andy Griffith Show family. And I'm a proud member of the production team of the new Mayberry Man movie. The Mayberry Man movie is an original comedy based around the Mayberry Days Festival. And guess what? You're in it! You can really help us by liking our Facebook page and visiting mayberryman.com. Sign up for our email list and you'll get all the latest details as the movie unfolds.
To learn more about the Mayberry Man movie, visit our website, mayberryman.com, and be sure to like our Mayberry Man movie Facebook page.
All right. So again, that is Court and Stark Howell, both of them, and then Greg Shell and Clint Howard's been talking about this. So this is something, if we want to get it made, we're going to end up having to help fund the thing, fund the movie. So maybe this will happen, maybe it won't, but in the coming weeks, we'll have more information about it. You can go and check out in our show notes information about the movie. I've read it. It's kind of like a Hallmark movie. So it's kind of a cool movie. It should be a lot of fun. Folks, that is all I have for you this episode of Two Chairs. I hope you've enjoyed it. I want to thank all of you who wrote or called in and left comments. It's always so great to hear from you guys and just to know that I'm not just talking to myself. I'm so glad you're out there. It's always fun to spend time here in Mayberry with you. Thank you for being here. I'd love to hear from you. You can head over to twocairsnowaiting.com. If you go to the About section, you'll see the contacts. Click on that, and it tells you how to get in touch with me. I'm not going to try to bore you with all the reasons, but that's how you can find it. twocairsnowaiting.com. Click on About, and you'll see contacts right there. It tells you how to contact me. Email, phone, however you want to do it. Folks, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time right here on Two Chairs, No Waiting, your Mayberry podcast. Talk to you later.